Hi, I'm Chloe, and this week we explored several key theories related to students' literacy learning, including cognitive theory, psycholinguistic theory, transactional theory, and critical theory. So, this series helped me develop a more systematic understanding of how students learn to read and write. So, from my perspective, this series all shared a common idea that students build a new knowledge on top of what they've already know. So, as a teacher, I believe literacy teaching should be scaffolded step by step, with each stage supporting and extending students' existing understanding. For example, when introducing a new topic, I might start with a pre activity to activate students' prior knowledge and get them thinking about the scene. And the next day, I could have them read a short text or paragraph related to that topic and discuss their thoughts. So, maybe after that, I might guide them to analyze the text more deeply. Maybe focusing on the grammar features or the key vocabulary that I might pull out some of the challenging words and ask students to create their own sentences by using them. So I think this kind of teaching design not only helps students understanding the structure and the meaning of the language, but also encourages them to see text from different perspectives, which also develops their critical thinking skills. So during the workshop, we also did activities related to phonological awareness and phonics, such as counting the number of phonemes and syllables in the given words. So it seems simple at first, but it was actually quite tricky. Not everyone got it right. So this made me realize how important it is for young learners to build a foundation of phonological awareness. As teachers, we cannot assume that students will just pick it up naturally. So these kind of skills need to be continuously taught and practiced. So, in the case of Red Creek School, this understanding becomes even more important since the school uses a multi-age classroom structure. Students' literacy level vary widely, and there are also several EALD learners. So this means that teacher need to place extra focus on phonics instructions and phonological awareness. For the beginner or the lower level English learners, such as the junior primary students, teacher could use play-based activities such as rhyming games, clapping to count syllables, or sound matching tasks to build foundational skills. For more advanced readers, lesson could focus on the word construction or decoding practices that strengthen vocabulary recognition and comprehension. Okay, so now we continue to week 2. So this week's workshop focused on the functional grammar in narratives and how to guide students in creating their own short stories. So in the grammar part, we learned how to help students to identify the participant, process, and circumstance in one sentence. It showed us how to use different colors to mark each part, and which is called color coding. And I found this approach really clear and practical because it helps students to see how a sentence structure connects to meaning. And this idea also reflects Deriwanka and Jones' view that teachers should help students understand the social purpose of different text type and how to use language to achieve them. So in the second half of the workshop, we did a really fun activities. So we first designed our own character and then we went outside to take pictures of it and finally wrote a story based on that character. I love this activity because it was really refreshing to get outdoors and it made the writing process more creative and engaging. So for children, I think this kind of activity helps them to feel a sense of belonging and connection with the environment. Also linking learning to real experiences. So when we start writing our stories, the teacher gave us several different story templates to choose. such as one divided into like 4 parts, beginning, middle, resolution, and ending, and one organized by the timeline of the events, and also one focused on the drawing with short captions for each picture. I think this templates would work very well in Red Creek School since it's a multi-age classroom where students have different English level and some of ELD learners. So the variety of templates supports differentiated learning, allowing students to choose one that fits their abilities and interests. It also encourages independent learning as they take the ownership of their writing process. Because students at Red Creek come from diverse cultural backgrounds, their ways of expressing and understanding ideas may vary or different. So these templates provide a very flexible and inclusive framework that can support everyone's progress. From this week's reading and video, I also learned that when teachers design lessons, they should always consider students' interests, strengths, and motivations, especially in the junior primary. Using play-based and creative learning strategies help make learning more enjoyable and meaningful. So students develop both skills and their interest for writing. Okay, so let's move on to week 3's workshop. This week we focus on writing development in early years, especially in junior primary. So in the workshop, we mainly discuss different phases of writing development and writing process based on the readings by Fellows and Oakley. At the beginning of the workshop, we looked at 4 different students' writing samples and worked in groups to decide which phase of development each one belongs to, whether it is beginning, emergent, transitional, or independent. Using the criteria from the readings, we discuss things like spelling, grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure to decide their phases. We also talked about how to support each student's future writing and what kind of teaching plans might help them progress. For example, in sample B, the students used correct capital letters and spacing, but this student's spelling was mostly phonetic rather than conventional. So we suggested giving him or her more phonic awareness and guided writing activities to help with accurate spelling. And then we explored the writing process, which usually included 5 stages, which is brainstorming, drafting, revising, editing, and finally publishing. So in the junior primary classroom, teachers can use pre-writing activities to get students interested, like classroom discussions, picture prompts, or drawing, painting. During revising and editing, teacher can give students a checklist to keep track of what they've done. For example, ticking off if they use capital letters or ticking off if they have correct punctuation, and then they can also do peer editing or ask teacher for feedbacks. One thing I found really useful in the workshop was the idea that creating a meaningful writing context through excursion or experiences. For example, students can go outside, draw pictures, take photos, and then use those kind of experiences to write their own stories. I think this kind of activity really captures young children's interest and motivates them to write. Linking to Red Creek School, the school has great spaces like creek, vegetable gardens, and adventure playground. Since these are the places students really know and love, they can use them as inspiration for storytelling. By writing about familiar settings, students can draw on their own experiences and imagination, making their writing feel more personal and engaging. I think this kind of activity fits Red Creek School perfectly, and it makes everyday experiences into creative, meaningful writing opportunities. For week 4's workshop, what stood out to me the most was the shared reading. We used the picture book Where the White Things Are as our main resource. We started with an expressive read aloud to guide others through the pre-reading stage. We went through and looked at the title, the cover, and the back of the book and did a quick picture walk to predict what the story might be about. This allowed students to use their own imagination freely without being limited by the text, while also helping the teacher to understanding their prior knowledge and their initial idea about the story. It was a great way to build engagement before moving into deeper reading. One thing I also liked from the workshop was the idea of flexible grouping. Also, the students might start out in ability-based group in the start of the term, so these groups are not fixed. They can change as students make progress. It really helps meet students' different learning needs and creates more chances for peer learning. We also explored the free body and looks for resources model, which includes 4 key roles. Which the first one is the code breaker. Students learn how to decode written or spoken language like phonics, spelling, or grammar. And the next one is the text participant. They connect their own experiences to make meaning from the story and understand the character's emotions. And the third one is the text users. They begin to understand how different types of text serve different purpose in different contexts. And the last one is the text analyst. They learn to think critically about the text message and values. We also discussed how this connects to the multimodality, which involves using multiple mediums like digital or visual space to make meaning. In early literacy teaching, this is especially powerful because it helps students to combine visual and non-linguistic elements to better understand the text. When I think about the Red Creek School, this approach feels particularly relevant because the school has mixed age classes and the students have very different reading levels, including a few EALD learners who are still developing their English. In this context, shared reading activities like picture walks can really help build interest and confidence. For beginner readers, teachers can focus on developing their code breaker and text participant skill, helping them learn vocabulary, grammar, and the basic meaning of the story. For more advanced students, teachers can extend learnings by encourage text users and text analyst skill, guiding them to think critically and express their own interpretations. Okay, so let's move on to week 5. This week's learning mainly focused on the teaching and the learning cycle, which really helped me understand how teachers can support students' literacy development step by step. The 5 stages of the cycle connect closely with each other, guiding students from understanding and modeling and to eventually being able to use language independently. I think it is a great example of how scaffolding works in English teaching. What impressed me most was the demonstration video I watched before the workshop. It focused on the first stage, which is setting the context. In the video, the teacher took students outside to learn language related to the directions and actions, such as cross, turn right, and stop. These are examples of procedural language. And I found it interesting how teachers use the real-life context to help students understand both the meaning and the purpose of these words. Also, these words or sentences are similar to what they will write soon, which I think is very helpful. Thinking about Fisher and Frey's gradual release model, I can see that the most stages of the cycle follow the ideas I do, we do. This highlights the importance of the interaction and shared construction between teachers and students. And I also realized that a teacher's role keeps changing through the cycle. Sometimes leading or guiding, and sometimes stepping back and let students to take more control. Being flexible and responsive to students' needs are really essential. The reading also enhanced my understanding of meta language. Teaching students to recognize features like structure, grammar, or text types helps them to become more aware of how language works. So they can apply that understanding in their own writing or speaking. When I think about the Red Creek School, I see how important differentiated literacy tasks are um, in such a diverse classroom. With students from different cultural and language backgrounds, teachers need to stay flexible. And for beginner readers, especially to new EAL learners from Afghanistan, oral based activities like storytelling or picture discussions can help them build confidence and vocabulary before starting reading or writing. And for more advanced students, the teacher could offer more independent tasks such as reading short novels or write reflections, so they can extend their skills at their own pace. So this way, every student can engage and make progress in a way that suits them level. So yeah, that's pretty much my reflection on the first 5 weeks of the workshops. Thanks for listening.